Hi, it's Rachelle Abbott and welcome back to the Standard Podcast. Coming up, the London researcher sniffing out the smells of ancient Egyptian mummies.
Woody, floral, slightly sweet, incense-like, spicy, as in cinnamon-like.
Stick around to find out why. But first, Mayor Sadiq Khan has approved a request from 33 boroughs in London to hike the cost of penalty charge notices, giving the green light to increase fines to up to £160. But why the increase? How will the money be used? And importantly, where do the fines apply? To find out everything you need to know, I'm joined by the London Standard City Hall and Transport editor, Ross Lydall. Hi, Ross.
Hi, Rach. How are you?
Ross, could we rewind to the beginning? Where did the conversation about parking fines begin?
So this increase dates back to the summer of 2023, and it comes from London Councils, which is the sort of umbrella organisation that represents the 33 boroughs in the capital, the likes of Islington, Camden, Hackney and so on. And London Councils put forward a public consultation, basically looking at their need in their mind to increase the cost of parking tickets. One of the proposals is actually to increase the tickets by as much, or certainly to £180. But the general concern was that the cost of parking tickets had gone up for quite a number of years, and they were no longer as effective a deterrent as they needed to be to stop bad parking.
And what is the main purpose? Where will the money go?
They're not legally allowed to use parking fines as a sort of cash cow, but councils do benefit, and they benefit through millions of pounds. There's no disguising that. However, probably around half of the money would go on the wages for the wardens, whether it's to private contractors or to in-house staff. Some councils now have sort of taken the wardens back in-house, such as Ealing Council. The rest of the money, if there's a sort of profit, then that can be used for transport projects. That could be, for example, fixing potholes, or pretty much every council in London also has to pay £1 million or more to the Freedom Pass, which is the free travel pass that all people aged over about 65 or 66 get in London. Also, people with disabilities are also able to travel for free. But that costs the councils a lot of money, about £350 million in the new financial year. So parking tickets, money from those, helps to give free travel to older Londoners.
When did the capital last see an increase in parking fines?
Capital hasn't seen an increase in the parking fines issued by councils since around 2010, 2011. Back in 2021, TfL did increase its parking fines from £130 to £160. These are for parking on a red route or in a bus lane on a red route, but most roads are controlled by councils. So really, for sort of all intents and purposes, there hasn't been an increase for almost 15 years, and that was because the Tory government at the time told the councils it was not minded to approve any increase in parking tickets, largely because it had, certainly towards the end of the Tory government, it thought there was something of a sort of war on the motorist, and it did all it could to prevent motoring becoming more expensive. But that, of course, has ended up with the situation here where the deterrent effect of a parking ticket isn't as strong as it was 15 years ago.
How do you think Londoners will react to the news?
I think it really depends whether you're a motorist or you're a pedestrian. And, I posted this story on my various social media accounts a couple of hours ago, and the response primarily was positive. But these are probably people who are either cyclists or pedestrians, because they are greatly annoyed at bad parking, and particular pavement parking, which is a massive issue across the country that's gone untackled for many, many years. To many people, including myself, it's really infuriating to find your path blocked by increasingly large cars. However, if you are a motorist and you get sent one of these fines, if you've suddenly got something landing on your doorstep or stuck to your windscreen that says pay £160, that is not going to make your day. You're going to be absolutely furious. So I think it really depends which side of the fence you're coming from. But there's no denying the fact that bad parking is a really big issue in London and beyond London.
And finally, do you want to run us through the fines?
These fines relate to parking on a yellow line, for example, when there's restrictions on parking on lines, or double yellow lines in particular, where you can't really park at all at any time. They relate also to parking bays and to car parks where you would pay to park, but you can still end up with a ticket if you overstay the amount of time you've booked. So, for example, if you paid for a couple of hours in the multi-storey car park, for whatever reason you overstay, and 30 minutes later after your designated slot you get back to the car, there's every chance there'll be a parking ticket stuck to the window. These tickets can also relate as well to parking in bus lanes on council roads rather than the TfL roads. And there's also a host of new charges as well. For example, if your car is either clamped or towed and taken to the council pound, then there are set rates that the councils can charge you before you can actually get your car back. All these different costs are going to go up as well.
Let's go to the ads. In part 2, we've heard of the Bengal song Walk Like an Egyptian, but what about smelling like one? We'll see you back here in just a moment. Welcome back. A team of researchers have sniffed out the smells of ancient Egyptian mummies, revealing they are spicy and sweet. The research is the result of a collaboration between University College London and the University of Ljubljana. The pioneering research combines a mix of techniques, including an electronic nose and trained human sniffers. Results have been published in Journal of the American Chemical Society. Dr. Cecilia Bembibre, co-author, lecturer and research director at UCL's Bartlett School of Environment, Energy and Resources, joins me now. So in more detail, what kind of smells are we talking about here?
Each of them smelled slightly different, but there were some descriptors, some words that we use to communicate the quality, the type of smells that we find that were common to many of them. And these were woody, floral, slightly sweet, incense-like, spicy, as in cinnamon-like, stale, and resin-like.
So just like the smells we could recognise from around the house then?
Absolutely. It was quite interesting because although we were able to connect some of these scents with the materials that would have been used in ancient Egypt in preparing the body for the afterlife, so the embalming process, some of them were a little bit unexpected. We did expect to find woody smells because, of course, we extracted a volume of air from inside the sarcophagus, and the sarcophagus were mostly made of wood. So as the wood breaks down, we also understand that there are other smells that come with this. For example, the smell of vanilla is one of the byproducts of the wood aging. So these were quite expected, I guess. The floral incense-like smells we knew were connected to some of the embalming materials used, such as frankincense or myrrh and other resins, plant oils like cedar oil, and so on. But then one of the most surprising smells, I would say, was we smelled very clearly tea. It took us aback slightly because we weren't expecting to find something so domestic smelling.
So how did you extract the smells?
We did it in two very distinct ways. One is using our noses, our human noses, taking a volume of air between 10 and 30 liters of the air around the sarcophagus and studying this, describing it. This is a technique called headspace, and it's used mostly in perfumery, really. It's been used to capture the scent of flowers in the wild, for example, and then describe it and document it. So we used this approach for the 9 mummified bodies. And the other thing that we did is we took a sample of that air in a very small metal tube, which is filled with a polymer. This polymer traps the volatile organic compounds which are responsible for smells. It's a substance that it acts as a sponge for the smell. So we can take that to the laboratory and do chemical analysis on it and also smell it. But what it does is, instead of smelling it as a composition, which is what we did on site, the instrument, which is called the gas chromatograph, a technique called gas chromatography olfactometry, deconstruct the smells in each of the molecules that are in the mix. So we were able to smell each of the different components and describe them.
What's next? I read that you're hoping to bring the smells to museums.
Some of the findings of the studies will be useful mostly to heritage professionals, to conservators working in the museum, and to people researching ancient Egypt. But we also want to bring back the smell of these mummified bodies to museum visitors, because we believe the smell is a significant part of the value of the object. When we see these mummified bodies behind display cases in museums, we are seeing an incomplete version of them. So we believe that by bringing back the smell in the museum, people will be able to connect with this heritage in a deeper and more holistic way. We will take the information we documented and we'll use it to reconstruct the scent, so people can experience the same that we experienced during the study. And this will be presented to visitors in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and in Slovenia for the time being. I'm hoping to also have it in London. And then the other way that we do this is we collaborate with the perfumer. And the idea is that the perfumer will help us recreate the smell as it was originally 3,500 years ago.
And that's The Standard. For all the latest news, head to standard.co.uk. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at podcasts@standard.co.uk.